Here comes the letter A. Shout hip hip hooray. A is for apple, juicy and red, crunchy and sweet. Take a bite instead. A is for ant, marching in a row, tiny little workers wherever they go. A is for airplane, flying in the sky, zoom 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 as it passes by. A is for astronaut, floating in space, waving to Earth with a smile on his face. A, clap your hands and say, that's the letter A today.
Ant. Tiny and strong, they march along. Look on the ground, what do we see? A little ant, as busy as can be. March, march, march in a line, working hard all the time. Says A, ant. Clap your hands, ant. Stamp your feet, ant. Wave your arms, say it loud, ant. Ant, ant. One by one, they never stop. Ant. Building homes so neat and small, carrying food, they don't fall. Ants work hard, yes they do. Me and you. Says ant. Jump and shout, and spin around. Everybody say ant. Say it faster. I'm don't. Airplane, airplane, up in the sky so high. Airplane, airplane, wings go wide, engines roar, ready to fly. Hear it soar, zoom through clouds, what a ride. Airplane time. Airplane, A says A. Up your hands, airplane. Spin around, wave your arms, airplane. Fly so high, airplane. Up, plane. Over the mountains, over the sea, fly with me. Take off fast, touch the sky, wave to the clouds as they pass by. Roro and Luna shout hooray! Airplane day. Says A. Hands jump and shout. Plane. Turn around. Everybody say. Airplane. Say it, we impressed her. Airplane. Airplane. Say louder. Say it faster. Fly. Airplane. Happy cheer, Roro smiles, the light is near. Angels singing all day long, join and dance our angel song. Says a angel, jump and twirl. Angel, fly so high. Angel, everybody say angel. Angel, 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 fly, fly, shine, shine, angel, angel. Shining waves and bubbles too. Down below the ocean deep, little fish and coral sleep. Luna laughs and Roro too. Aqua blue. Clap your hands, splash, splash. Aqua. Spin around, wave, wave. Aqua. Feel the light glow, glow. Aqua. Everybody say aqua poo. Bubbles rise up to the sun, shining bright, the day's begun.